originally ran, you may remember it, I said I was going to be a transitional candidate. And I thought that I'd be able to move from this, just pass it on to someone else. But I didn't anticipate things getting so divided. But there's more to do, and I'm reluctant to walk away from that.
Lunch Bucket Joe, that was Joe Biden about 6 months ago, babbling that stuff. And since Robin called in from Georgia, and his plan to save the Democratic Party, those are his words, that Joe Biden resigns as president, Robin thought maybe he could become vice president and Kamala becomes president of the United States, and then abortion or something. And $25,000 because free money. Well, somebody else's money anyway. It's all just fake money. They don't understand reality, Democrats. They're disconnected. Should be noted, we talked about it last week, that the Democrats want Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor to stand down, to resign, to retire, so that Joe Biden and the Lizard King in the Senate can rush through a replacement for Jake LaMotta, for Sonia Sotomayor, who looks remarkably like Jake LaMotta in his twilight years. And that, this, I got to tell you, the Democrat Party is just completely unhinged. But Robin, perfectly nice man, he's a Democrat, so he's wrong about everything. In Georgia, the greater Atlanta metropolitan area. That's a greater Atlanta metropolitan area? I think so. And Joe, he said, maybe Joe could become VP. No. The Democrats, they want Liz Cheney to become the vice president, and then she can preside over the January 6th, where a Democrat congressman from Maryland says the Democrats will prevent Donald Trump from becoming president of the United States because they will refuse to certify the Electoral College because, January 6th, which we call Ashley Babbitt Day. Eventually, it would be a national federal holiday, Ashley Babbitt Day. January 6th. It's a crazy thing. But with that said, because, Robin, we're thinking about you, buddy. And over the weekend on CNN, it was yesterday, Jamal Simmons, who is a Democrat and not a very bright person. He is... a media person. He is Kamala Harris's, what was he, deputy campaign manager? Comms director. He's Jamal Simmons, and he's the communications director for the Kamala Harris campaign. And he went on the television, and because Democrats know that it's the most important thing, he too is African American, and so that is the most important thing. So former Kamala Harris aide says Joe Biden should resign so that, and now again, he works for Kamala Harris, and if Joe Biden resigns, then Kamala Harris becomes president of the United States, the first woman, in theory, we haven't checked, to be president of the United States. No kids, right? No kids. So no proof, I think, at this point. But the people at USA Today are very excited. Former Kamala Harris aide says Joe Biden should resign so she can serve as the 47th president. And then Donald Trump would become the 48th president of the United States on January 20th. So those baseball caps with 45, 47 would become important collector's items in American political history. Isn't that great? So the former Harris staffer calls on Biden to resign. And since Robin just suggested that, I wanted to share with you what happened on CNN with Dana Bash and the gang yesterday.
Joe Biden's been a phenomenal president. He's lived up to so many of the promises he's made. There's one promise left that he could fulfill, being a transitional figure. He could resign the presidency in the next 30 days.
Transition.
Make Kamala Harris the president of the United States. Whoa. It would absolve from being able to from having to oversee the January 6th transition, right, of her own defeat.
Oh, she wouldn't have to preside over this. You should try to be more petty. Maybe you should be more small-minded. Maybe you should be more corrupt. Jamal Simmons of the Harris campaign, communications director. Former Harris staffer calls on Biden to resign, install Harris as first female, allegedly, president. Commentators have also suggested Harris replace Justice Sonia Sotomayor on the Supreme Court and do away with the filibuster and pack the Supreme Court and change the official language of the United States to Uzbek because the Democrat Party not on our side. Isn't that amazing? Got to tell you. Does anybody here speak Uzbek? Do you speak Uzbek? No Uzbek for you? Okay, all right. So the former communications director for Vice President Kamala Harris, Jamal Simmons, surprised a CNN panel Sunday by suggesting President Joe Biden step down to allow Harris to serve as the first female president. Isn't that amazing? So Jamal Simmons thinks this is a good idea. This is what passes for a good idea in Democrat circles.
It would make sure that it would dominate the news at a point where Democrats have to learn drama and transparency and doing things that the public want to see is the time. This is the moment for us to change the entire perspective of how Democrats operate.
This has now jumped from an internet meme to a Sunday morning show.
Jamal's out here right now. It's a season of House of Cards.
Oh, it's the House of Cards. It's a season of House of Cards. It's an internet meme. It's a cable show topic. You people, do you have any idea how mentally unstable you people, I was going to say appear to be. I'm going to change that. Are. Do you know how mentally unstable you are? You're very mentally unstable people. Jamal Simmons, the whole circle fest at the CNN table there, just completely ridiculous people. Wow. This is the Democrat Party today. On Veterans Day, when the Democrats in New York are celebrating Martyrs Day on behalf of radical Islam and jihadi terrorists everywhere. Aren't they amazing? Man, oh, man. Let's go to this guy, Jamie Metzel, number 8. Jamie Metzel is another Democrat Party operative. And Jamie Metzel, he goes on the television, too, because, the Democrats, they all have their own television shows. And Jamie Metzel is one of these guys who is a lifelong Democrat, but he's scratching his head and saying, gosh, I don't think the Democrat Party makes sense anymore. And they should all leave the Democrat Party. They really should, and join the sane People's Party. Just a thought. But this guy, he is a Biden staffer, Jamie Metzel, and he's a tech guy and a healthcare guy, allegedly, and he calls himself a futurist, and he pretends to be a geopolitical expert because they all love to expand their resumes with all kinds of stuff that you can neither prove nor disprove. And the Atlantic Council pays him money, and he's with some left-wing radical extremist group, One Shared World, which means they're going to steal all your stuff and redistribute whatever it is you've been working your whole life to do. And so Jamie Metzel, a Biden guy, a Biden political guy, and he was asked over the weekend, gosh, why is it that the Democrats took such a drubbing, such a shellacking? Why do you guys get beaten like a gong at a Chinese gong festival when you told us you were going to win right up until Election Day and Trump couldn't possibly win? It was going to be a landslide for Kamala Harris. It's what all the smart people were saying in the media, right? Jamie Metzel, a former Biden staffer.
When we saw Joe Biden in the debate on June 27th, it should have been clear to everybody that this was not a person who could have been president of the United States for 4 more years. And people on the inside saw his decline, and we should have had a competitive primary. And if we had had a competitive primary, something would have shaken out. We would have potentially had a candidate who could say, hey, I'm not fully aligned with this past administration.
Not fully. Wait a minute. You should have engaged in a democratic process. You should have acknowledged after the debate, which is when he was really kicked to the curb. Biden was kicked to the curb by his own party. And Jamie Metzel of the Biden administration saying we should have recognized. We did hear Jamie Metzel for all of your idiot credentials. Maybe you should have listened to this radio show. Then you'd be a lot smarter than you are now. Aren't these people amazing? We should have gotten rid of him. He should have resigned. He should have stepped down after the debate because we all recognized you guys lied to our faces about it immediately after. You know, in the spin room after the debate, you lied, and you all lied because you're all pathologically dishonest people. Some of you psychopathologically dishonest people. You lie rather than tell the truth when the truth would actually work better than the lie. But you prefer the lie. You're natural liars. NBL, natural born liars. Just amazing stuff. And here's Jamie Metzel, again, of the Biden organization, saying, gosh, we should have recognized that after the debate that he should have stepped down. No kidding. Wow. Why didn't I think of that? I've got to say, I believe, and I believe I'm correct, that I was the first, I think more than 2 years ago, to say and stand by it, that Joe Biden would not be the Democrat Party's nominee come Election Day. I predicted that 2 years ago, I believe. We actually had the date on that at one point, didn't we? And because I don't spend all my time self-promoting like some people, but I did years ago say Joe Biden come Election Day will not be the Democrat Party's nominee. He dug his fingers into the desktop and he tried to stay, but they got rid of him. And now Jamie Metzel, he says, well, gosh, maybe if we had noticed that Joe Biden's brain wasn't working, we would have gotten rid of him and had a democratic process, which they did not have. No sense of irony, these people from the so-called Democrat Party. Jamie Metzel wasn't done.
Number two is the Democrats didn't disconnect ourselves from these lunatics on the far left.
Yeah, the lunatics on the far left. Yeah, he actually appeared on Fox News because CNN doesn't want to hear it. MSDNC doesn't want to hear it. The New York Times and the Washington Post don't want to hear it because it's true, it's accurate, everybody knows it, and that's why they can't report it, because the lie works better than the truth. So here is Metzel, and he's like, hey, wait a minute, most Americans are not crazy, transgender, pro-jihad, open border, pro-gang, pro-cartel, fentanyl, and heroin traffickers, like the Democrats are. Metzel.
Americans are really sensible, centrist people. Nobody wants to defund the police. Nobody's on board with globalizing the Intifada. Nobody sees people on campuses with Hamas headbands burning American flags and say, hey, that's us. We say that's not us.
You know, I look people up throughout the course of the day when we're playing them and stuff. They all go to Harvard. You at Brown and Oxford and Harvard, because they all have to go to Harvard. And something terrible happens to your brain when you're at Harvard. I think the evidence is in. Harvard is not a school. It's a North Korean brainwashing factory. Just extraordinary, extraordinary stuff. Man. Got another Democrat strategist coming up from CNN. They're all, well, not all of them, some of them are shaking their heads real hard like cartoon characters, and their heads are coming back to normal shape instead of the shape of a frying pan after Election Day. And they're saying, well, wait a minute, maybe the American people are normal. Remember normal. Maybe the American people aren't transgender, drug trafficking, open border, pro-jihad, genocidal anti-Semites like all of us are. And all of you are. Amazing. You know that America's strength is not just built, it's also worn. For those of us who put in the hours to get things done in America, G-Defy shoes are made right for you with patented VersaShock technology. G-Defy shoes, they don't just talk about comfort, they engineer comfort. With every step you take, G-Defy shoes help to absorb harmful shock and provide trampoline-like energy return for your feet, for your ankles, your legs, your back. My best girl and I, we've got G-Defy shoes. Hike around the city. Your feet feel better when you're done hiking than they felt before you started. They're designed for hardworking Americans, for parents, for people who stand tall no matter what. So go to gdefy.com and use the code Chris, that's me, to get $20 off your order of $100 or more. That's the code Chris for $20 American off your order of $100 or more, because even champions need rest and comfort. Go to gdefy.com today. Yes, sir. All right, more crazy people, media, and updates on President Trump. Couple of announcements for the upcoming Trump administration. That's next.
Nobody wants to defund the police. Nobody's on board with globalizing the intifada. We say that's not us.
I want to get to this FEMA story because it's one of the most infuriating things you've ever heard in your life. But I'll get to that shortly. And Elise Stefanik and Tom Homan coming up as well. Let's go now to Jeff, calling from Herndon, Virginia. Jeffrey, you're on the Chris Plant Show. Jeff in Herndon, Virginia. Jeffrey, maybe he's at a doctor's appointment too. Hey, where did Jeff go? Jeff's not there. Areas. Let's go to. I'm sorry, Jeff. We went to Jeff, and he's not there. He had a nice message too. He wants to welcome Democrats who want to join the world of common sense and sanity. And I was a very nice message from Jeff in Herndon. Wanted to go to Jeff. Let's go to Robert, calling from South Carolina. Roberto, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris. Thanks for taking my call today.
You bet.
Hey, I just want to start off saying that it's good to see Schumer's an election denier by denying McCormick's win at PA. But anyway, so listen, we're not done yet. We still need the House. Otherwise, it's impeachment 2.0, right?
Oh, yeah, you bet. I think the Democrats are going to fire on Fort Sumter again.
They will. And if they win, they're going to impeach Trump. You know, aside to other results, we have Newhouse in Washington, who's basically a Democrat, voted to impeach Trump. Vallado in California, who voted to impeach Trump. So even at 218, we don't have enough. And then you got the wonderful Elise Stefanik of New York with the honor of potentially being the ambassador to UN. But I just heard, I thought you said you were going to have her on the show. You need to talk her out of it, man, because if we don't have 222 to 224 seats in the House, it's impeachment 2.0, right?
Yeah, I think you're pretty much right. No, I'm not going to have her on the show. I almost never have anybody on the show. I barely have enough time for what I have to say. I only have 3 hours a day. So I'm not having her on the show. But she's a great member of the House. And you're right about the count in the House, big time. Yes, Veterans Day in the United States of America. From the halls of Montezuma, the shores of Tripoli. At Columbia University in New York today, they're celebrating Martyrs Day and condemning the United States military because they're fascists, little Hitlers, little Nazis all over the place. They love killing the Jews, just like the good little Nazis that they are. Attacking kosher restaurants in Washington, D.C. on the anniversary of Kristallnacht. The Democrats. If you're an American Jew and you voted for Kamala, you need a brain scan. The patriarchy can arrange that for you. You're welcome. Amazing stuff. Now, this is, speaking of amazing stuff, one of the most incredible stories, I've got to say. A FEMA official, the Daily Wire, broke the story as an exclusive FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency official, ordered relief workers, Soviet term, to skip houses with Trump signs. Now, this is kind of amazing. You may recall that the New York Times fact-checked this. President Trump said FEMA is staying out of Trump areas and not addressing post-hurricane disaster relief aid to Trump supporters And the New York Times, of course, said, well, that lacks evidence. There's no evidence to support that. They still have not changed or updated the New York Times fact check because here's the evidence. Officials ordered relief workers to skip houses with Trump signs. Whistleblower. It's almost unbelievable to think that somebody in the federal government would think that's okay. Well, you got to keep in mind that they're Marxists, they're leftists, and they're the most blood-drenched gang of crooks and scoundrels and murderers that humankind has ever seen. A federal disaster relief official ordered workers to bypass homes of Donald Trump supporters as they surveyed damage caused by Hurricane Milton in Florida, according to internal correspondence obtained by the Daily Wire and confirmed by multiple federal employees. Note that the New York Times didn't break the story. ABC Fake News didn't break the story. CNN and the Washington Post did not break the story. In fact, the filth are not even reporting it. A FEMA supervisor told workers in a message to, quote, avoid homes advertising Trump, end quote, as they canvassed Lake Placid, Florida, to identify residents who could qualify for federal aid. Internal messages viewed by the Daily Wire reveal. The supervisor, whose name is Marnie Washington, M-A-R-N apostrophe I, Marnie Washington, relayed this message both verbally and in a group chat used by the relief team. Multiple government employees told the Daily Wire. The government employees told the Daily Wire that at least 20 homes with Trump signs or flags were skipped from the end of October and into November due to the guidance given by Marnie. Marnie gave the guidance, Marnie Washington. Marnie Washington should be in an orange jumpsuit today. She should literally be in handcuffs. And I sometimes joke about putting people in jail. I don't really believe. I think, unless you're really a violent criminal and a threat to society, you probably don't belong in a penitentiary and a jail because they're so terrible. They're such terrible places. But this woman, Marnie Washington, genuinely and legitimately belongs behind bars in prison for at least 2 years. She deserves at least years, a couple of years in prison. And she is, talk about filth. My Lord, this woman is beyond filth. I assume Marnie Washington is a woman, but you never know with Democrats because of their gender dysphoria. The government employees told the Daily Wire at least 20 homes were skipped. Isn't that amazing? They were not given the opportunity to qualify for FEMA assistance. Images shared with the Daily Wire show that houses were skipped over by the workers who wrote in the government system messaging such as Trump sign, no entry per leadership. So they're making notes per leadership. Their leadership has told them, we're not going to, if they're Trump supporters, then we, the fascists, Nazi, Hitler-worshiping, communist pig dogs of the Democrat Party and the permanent bureaucracy, we are going to corruptly abuse our power. So unbelievable. It's unclear whether the same guidance was issued elsewhere in the country. The employees were part of a Department of Homeland Security Surge Capacity Force team, meaning they volunteered from other DHS agencies to help an understaffed FEMA. Remember, Trump said they were understaffed. No, they're not. They're avoiding Trump areas. No, they're not. They lie about everything. These people couldn't be more corrupt if their goal were to become more corrupt. Just amazing stuff. Understaffed FEMA as it dealt with a second major hurricane in the span of just a few weeks. Now, this is truly extraordinary stuff. And then we learned CNBC, fakes and frauds that they are there. FEMA fires employee who told Florida relief workers to skip Trump supporters. FEMA fired an employee who had instructed relief workers in Florida not to go to homes with yard signs supporting presidential candidate Donald Trump. It was reprehensible, FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell wrote in a statement. And now let's look at what Deanne Criswell knew at the time, too. The firing comes after Trump won the presidency against Vice President Kamala Harris, but weeks into the recovery effort of Hurricane Milton. Milton. Isn't that amazing? This woman literally needs to go to a penitentiary, and not for a weekend. She needs to go for years for being a communist, fascist, whatever you want to call her. She's a pig. She belongs in handcuffs. She belongs in prison where she'll meet a lot of her friends. So the Federal Emergency Management Agency on Saturday that it had fired an employee who had instructed relief workers in Florida not to go to homes with yard signs in support of then presidential candidate Donald Trump. This is a clear violation of FEMA's core values and principles to help people regardless of their political affiliation, FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell wrote in a statement. Now, this woman was so stupid, Marnie, that she put it all in writing, in messages, phone, laptop, and stuff to these employees. Isn't that amazing? These people. Now, I'm just going to say that she's a typical Democrat government employee. And this is what we should expect based on years, decades of experience from leftists in the government abusing their power. How many times have I said it? They give a lefty a thimble full of power, they'll abuse it before the sun goes down. Just amazing stuff. Yes, sir. Amazing. And again, prison, penitentiary, no kidding, no messing around, handcuffs, FBI raid, abuses of power, sabotaging the government. And also, this tells you one corrupt person in a major government agency can do this kind of filth. We've seen it in the FBI. We've seen it in the Justice Department. We've seen it in the intelligence community. And I had to bite my tongue, every stinking one of these pigs is a lefty. You put them in at the FBI, give them a position of authority. You put them in the intelligence community. Lefty Communist Party voter John Brennan, CIA director under Barack Hussein Obama, who was mentored by communist Frank Marshall Davis. These Marxists are here to destroy the world, and they've sunk their teeth into the jugular vein of the American body politic, and they're sucking the lifeblood out. These people are criminals. This woman is a filthy criminal, and she needs to be treated like a criminal, and she needs to be made an example of. And we need to learn the lesson that when one person in one government agency, a massive government agency, can be this filthy and this corrupt, that you cannot be harsh enough, you cannot deal harshly enough with this reprehensible person. Wow. And she was fired, and they're going to pretend, well, see, she was fired, that's it. And the filth in the news media, Democrat crooks too, and their Democrat politicians are going to say, well, it was dealt with, she was fired. We're not done. Boy, are we not done with this pig of a person. It actually made me very angry. Very, very angry. Marvin the Martian. Speaking of which, another story out of the Pentagon, where there are leftists as well, and I think it's all transgender now. I spent 10 years in the Pentagon. It wasn't very transgender then. It was pretty pro-American then. The Daily Caller, Pentagon officials discussed scenarios to countermand controversial orders from incoming commander-in-chief. That would be Donald John Trump, who just won in a landslide in the Electoral College and the popular vote. Pentagon officials have been discussing how to counter potential orders from President-elect Donald Trump, CNN reported, citing defense officials with whom they're having sex. The officials are gaming out various scenarios, and gaming out in quotation marks, including the possibility Trump will deploy military troops to assist in mass deportations. He's the commander-in-chief of the U.S. Armed Forces. This is a national security threat. This is a national sovereignty threat. and a potential reclassification of federal employees to make them easier to fire. Wait a minute. The Pentagon is plotting against the newly elected president-elect of the United States of America? Now that is an insurrection. That is a coup. That is 7 days in May. That is criminal conduct on the part of whoever these stinking Pentagon officials are. You're gaming out various scenarios where military troops might assist mass deportations. I remember when a handful of illegal aliens arrived on Martha's Vineyard, the Democrats called out the National Guard and removed them from Martha's Vineyard because rich Democrats vacation there and own houses there, including Bolton Kerry and Barack Obama. And they removed them to a military base on Cape Cod, where they were all exterminated, killed, thrown into the crematoria. Amazing stuff. And if they were, the New York Times wouldn't, they weren't really, but if they were, the New York Times wouldn't report it. So, and reclassify federal employees to make them easier to fire. What does that have to do with the Pentagon? This is the stuff of civil war in the United States of America. We're all preparing and planning for the worst case scenario, but the reality is we don't know how this is going to play out yet, a defense official said, according to CNN. That defense official should be in a jail cell with Marnie over there from the FEMA people. You know, you are to salute smartly and follow the orders of the commander-in-chief. And what does making it easier to fire federal employees have to do with the Pentagon? This is the stuff of a coup in a third-world beep-hole country run by leftists. Republican CNN contributor Scott Jennings, their only Republican contributor, criticized the reports, suggesting the disgruntled officials should speak to Trump directly. What's Donald Trump supposed to speak? Jennings asked. Anderson Cooper 360. He's got to read the newspaper tonight that the unselected, unelected bureaucracy of the federal government is having meetings and plotting how to thwart and countermand the commander-in-chief. This is the left. These people are criminals. They have corrupted our government. They've corrupted FEMA. They've corrupted the Justice Department. They've corrupted the FBI. They've corrupted the intelligence community. And now they've corrupted the Pentagon, and they're literally plotting against the just elected president of the United States, 312 electoral votes. And our military is plotting against them because, you know, Joe Biden and the transgender-loving chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and we have a totally absent Secretary of Defense who's nowhere to be found except at wreath layings. Womp, womp, womp. Very corrupt country we live in because the left is here. You know that the all-new third-generation Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifier has finally arrived. It builds on the incredible success of the previous generations. Previous models earned thousands of five-star reviews, quickly became a bestseller in no time at all. This new Thunderstorm has two technologies that studies have shown help kill up to 99% of bacteria and viruses in the air, removes dust and pet dander, smoke, and more into the air. It's floating around the air. It helps get rid of any odor. No filters to replace over and over again. The Thunderstorm will help get rid of any stinky, smelly odor guaranteed. Litter boxes, trash cans, cigarette smoke, diapers, left-wing protesters. No match for the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. And right now, you can save $200 on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. Get one for your basement, your teenager's room, your kitchen, your family room, any place you like to breathe clean, fresh air. All you have to do is go to EdenPureDeals.com and use the discount code Chris3, Chris and the number 3, to save $200 on 3 Eden Pure Thunderstorms, the new shiny ones. I'm telling you, that's EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is Chris3. Yeah, the Pentagon. That's not the old Pentagon I know. The commies are here. And FEMA. The commies are here. and the intelligence community and the FBI. The Marxists are here. You remember then Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, our top general, a top military officer in the United States of America, who was plotting against President Trump, General Milley, thoroughly modern Milley, transgender pals, held top secret meetings to block President Trump's nuclear access, and he told staff to disobey all orders but his own. That's a coup. More penitentiary time, I've got to say. Amazing stuff. And you remember, it was Milley that called General Lee in China, right? And got him on the phone behind Trump's back to plot against President Trump. These people are coup plotters. They are treasonous, traitorous, treacherous criminals. Just saying it out loud because it's true. Amazing times we're in. Let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Danielle, calling from Yukon, Oklahoma. Danielle, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hi, Chris. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Your beautiful voice.
It is great to talk to you today. I have had the first really good week of sleep in a very long time. I had some friends before the elections who vote Democrat for forever. They privately would come to me and say, you know, I'm really leaning towards Trump. And they came to me because they couldn't really talk to their friends and family. And I think that's part of the problem with our nation. People aren't used to communicating properly anymore. You know, with social media, you can just attack someone and then just go hide in a corner somewhere instead of looking someone in the face, having a conversation, getting your point of view out there. And my children, you know, watched everything going on recently. And my adult children, who thought I was mean-hearted and mean-spirited about 5 years ago before they could vote, this year when they voted, they were like, you know, you were right, Mom. It's crazy out there. I've lost friends because of politics. And we need to get back to being family and friends. And, you know, yes, we have differences, but we're still one nation that needs to stand together.
I am nodding out loud in agreement with you. You are wonderful. And our other caller, who wasn't there when I went to him, wanted to say we want to welcome the Democrats to sane land.